What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the stack. Welcome back if you've been here before. I am neonmushroom, and we have some more Commander/EDH gameplay for you guys today. Really quick, just for anyone who saw the last videos, Chris Shavers, the guy who played in our last game, came back for another game today. Today's playing a different deck, not the same Mangara deck you saw last time. But if any of you missed that last game, I'd highly recommend going and taking a look. I'll leave a link to it in the description, and if I figure out how, I'll leave an annotation in the video you're seeing here, because it ended in a really crazy way, and a lot of people seem to really enjoy the way that game went. We don't do a lot of games like that, so just wanted to let everybody know. That said, that's everything you need to know before this game starts, so let's go ahead and check out who's playing, what they're playing, and what opening hands they decided to keep, in addition to some upkeep stuff.
As always, if you like this show or any of our other shows on YouTube, liking, sharing, and subscribing helps us out immensely. If you like our content and don't mind that extra mile, you can always support us over on Patreon, over at patreon.com/mtgthestack.
Like Rob B.
Comment down below any of your thoughts and feelings, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Alright, first up we have returning to the channel, Chris Shavers. This time he's bringing his Daretti Scrap Savant build. This is a deck he affectionately calls Mad Max Fury Road. It's going to be a deck that focuses on a goblin tribal strategy with a sub-strategy of vehicles. He has opted to keep a 7-card hand with a Tormod's Crypt, a Goblin Matron, Ghost Quarter, Goblin Engineer, and 3 copies of Basic Mountain. Next up we have Guy bringing his Kadena Slinking Sorcerer budget build. This deck comes in at just under $200. This deck's going to be focusing on Kadena's main engine, which is going to be to morph a ton of cards, to draw a ton of cards, and try to string together some type of a situation where you can kill everyone via combat damage. Guy has opted to go down to 6 cards, including a Grim Horsefex, an Ixodron, Secure Tribelder, Hinterland Harbor, Darkwater Catacombs, a Forest, and he has to bottom a copy of Unblinking Bleb due to the London Mulligan. Next up we have Calvin playing Zurgo Helmsmasher. Yes, it is another Mardu deck. The goal of this deck is fairly simple and linear. He wants to leverage Zurgo's indestructibility in order to wipe the board on his own turn and get in with Zurgo, dealing commander damage to everyone. Calvin does opt to keep a 7-card hand, including 2 basic swamps, a Wooded Foothills, a Luxury Suite, Talisman of Indulgence, a Mogus God of Slaughter, and a Mythos of Snapdax. And finally we have me. I'll be playing my partner pairing that many of you have seen before of Vial Smasher the Fierce and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. This deck's goal is going to be to cast Vial Smasher, clone it with Sakashima, and then find other clones to clone the Sakashima that's cloning Vial Smasher to start killing everyone with random die rolls. I'm going to be keeping a 7-card hand with a Sin Prodder, a Counterspell, a Nightscape Familiar, a Talisman of Dominance, a Mountain, an Urborg, and a Blood Crypt. Card game on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Bazinga!
Haha, it's Chris. Alright, Chris won card game, so he'll draw and play a basic Mountain, passing the turn to Guy, who's going to play a basic Forest. Moving to Calvin's turn, he'll just drop a Wooded Foothills and pass to me. I'll play a Scalding Tarn, and we'll move to Chris for the second turn cycle. Chris is going to drop a basic Mountain, and he's immediately going to tap 2 for a Goblin Engineer. This will allow him to search his library for a Smuggler's Copter, put it in the bin, and pass the turn to Guy, who will draw and play a Hinterland Harbor as his land for turn. Then he'll tap out for 2 and play Secure Tribelder. Calvin wants to fetch. I have a response because I'm petty. I'll fetch first. I'm going to go search my library for a Steam Vents, then Calvin gets to resolve his fetch. He'll go get a Savai Triome, and it will enter the battlefield tapped. After that, we're going to move to Calvin's turn, so he'll untap, upkeep, and draw his card for turn. In his first main phase, I'll play a basic Swamp, then I'll tap out for 2 and play Talisman of Indulgence, and I'll ship the turn over to me. I'll draw and play a Luxury Suite, then I'll tap for 2 and play a Talisman of Dominance. With everyone's turn 2 plays out of the way, we'll move to Chris's third turn, where he'll play Tormod's Crypt and sacrifice it to the Goblin Engineer to buy back Smuggler's Copter, aka Looter Scooter. He'll play a basic Mountain as his land for turn, tapping for 2 and playing Sparksmith. Then he's going to pass the turn to Guy, but before he can, Guy wants to sacrifice Secure Tribelder for a basic Swamp. Then Guy will untap and draw his card for turn. He'll play Command Tower as his land for turn, and he'll tap out for his commander, Kadena Slinking Sorcerer. When that comes into play, he uses his ability to morph a card face down for free, and then draw a card. After that, we'll pass to Calvin, where he draws, plays a second basic Swamp, and then taps out for Mogus God of Slaughter. That's going to trigger on everyone's upkeep. Calvin passes to me. On my upkeep, I can't sack a creature, so I take 2 life. I draw a card, I play a Command Tower, then I'm going to tap for 2 and play Nightscape Familiar. Wanting to hold up mana, I'm going to pass the turn to Chris. Moving on to Chris's 4th turn, he'll untap and take 2 to Mogus, then he'll draw his card for turn, and play a basic mountain as his land for turn. He's then going to crew the Smuggler's Copter using Goblin Engineer and head into combat and turn that Smuggler's Copter sideways at Calvin. It's going to trigger, so he's going to be able to draw a card and discard a card. Then Calvin's going to go ahead and take 3 damage. In Chris's 2nd main phase, he'll cast his commander, Daretti, Scrap Savant, and he'll immediately use it to discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. After he's done with this, he'll pass the turn to Guy. Guy's going to draw his card for turn and play a basic island as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap for 4 mana and try to play the Guardian Project. I do have a response. I'll use 2 of that mana that I left up to counterspell the Guardian Project, and this does resolve. Then Guy's going to morph using Kadena's ability and draw a card off of the morph. He'll head into combat, and he's going to use his morphed creature and his Kadena to attack Daretti. Chris will block the Kadena with Sparksmith, and then activate it to deal 2 damage to himself, and 2 damage to the Kadena, causing them to trade. Then Daretti will drop down to 3 from combat damage, and we'll move to Calvin's turn.
Did you take your 2 at your upkeep for Mogus?
Haha, beep beep, stupid idiot.
To make the cut. Draw! Planes?
That looks like a portal wipe.
Beep beep.
Oh, no.
Beepity boopity.
Beep, beep.
boppity.
Leave Daretti alone.
Beep beep. Beep beep.
But he did nothing wrong.
Listen, man.
He didn't do anything wrong.
He was just here to rummage.
Pass.
After that unwarranted murder of Daretti, we move to my turn where I'll play a Drunk Catacomb. Calvin reminds me that I need to take 2 off of Mogus, so I do. Then I'm going to tap for 2 mana to cast Vial Smasher, which has a reduced cost of 1, thanks to the Nightscape Familiar. Then we'll tap for 3 and play Sakashima, which has a reduced cost of 1 thanks to the Nightscape Familiar. I'll copy Vial Smasher, and then I'm going to attack Calvin for 1 with the Nightscape Familiar. He takes it, and we pass the turn to Chris.
Can't believe Daretti died.
He didn't even do
Can we
anything
get us on
wrong.
the chat for Daretti, please?
Already.
Chris is going to play a basic mountain as his land for turn, and then crew the Smuggler's Copter with the Engineer. Then he's going to go into combat and attack Guy for 3, triggering the Smuggler's Copter.
I'm gonna be nice to you today, Adrian. I'm gonna discard Blood Moon.
Fuck yeah.
You're gonna be nice to him?
Fuck yeah.
After looting, we're going to move to combat damage, and Guy is going to take 3 off of the Smuggler's Copter.
Main phase 2, I'm going to cast Bigger Ship!
Oh dear. Does that thing trigger an ETB?
No.
Oh,
Oh, no, actually it does.
It does, that's what I thought.
3 damage anywhere.
Kill that Zurgo.
Oh, target creature or planeswalker.
Kill that thing.
Or
He's gonna board wipe on his. Yeah, he killed
Vial
that.
Smasher. Maybe Vial Smasher.
Chris does the right thing and destroys the Zurgo Helmsmasher. Then we're going to move over to Guy's turn, where he'll untap, take 2 off of the Mogus, and I'll draw his card for turn. Then he'll play a Darkwater Catacombs as his land for turn and pass the turn to Calvin.
That clone, is, when it copies Vial Smasher, it copies all attributes, including power, toughness, converted mana costs, and so
That
on.
is how copying a card works, yes.
I
You have an austere command, don't you?
Yes, I have an
Okay, that's
austere
what I
command.
thought.
Calvin's going to play a Luxury Suite as his land for turn, and then I'll tap out and play that austere command that I called him out for having. He's going to choose to destroy all creatures with CMC 3 or less, and all artifacts. Guy has a response. He's going to morph up Grim Horsefex, which is going to cause him to draw a card when the austere command does resolve. After all of that's finished, we're all going to rezone our commanders, and then we're going to pass the turn back to me. I'll untap, take 2 to Mogus, and then I'm going to play Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth as my land for turn. I'll tap for 3 and play Sin Prodder, and then I'll play an Arcane Signet and pass the turn to Chris, where he'll untap and draw. Calvin reminds me he has to take 2 to Mogus, then Chris is going to play Basic Mountain as his land for turn, and I'll tap 3 to play Goblin Matron. That'll allow him to search his library for a Goblin Recruiter and put it into his hand. Then he's going to cast the Goblin Recruiter, and it will trigger.
Recruiter trigger. I'm gonna fetch for any number of goblins, which is probably all of them, and we're gonna put them to the top of my library.
Chris is now going to search his library for every goblin in his deck, and I'm not going to list them all, but for anyone who plays goblins, I'll let you see what he forks through here. We've got staples like Kiki Jiki, we've got Goblin Rabble Master, we've got Siege Gang Commander, Conspicuous Snoop, Chain Whirler, you know the ones. After that, he's going to pass the turn to Guy, but before he can, he'll flash into Teferi, Mage of Zafir. Then Guy will untap and draw his card for turn. Guy will temporarily forget the Mogus trigger, play a basic forest, and pass the turn to Calvin, and then Calvin reminds him to take 2, and all of us are sick and tired of us forgetting the Mogus trigger, so I pass out some dice to put on the top of our libraries. Calvin's going to play Ancient Tomb as his land for turn, immediately losing 2 life to it, to recast Zurgo, Helmsmasher. He's going to go into the red zone with Zurgo, and he's going to attack Chris. Chris takes 7 commander damage from the Zurgo, and then we're going to pass the turn to me, where I'm going to lose 2 life to Mogus and trigger Sin Prodder.
Trigger Sin Prodder? Would anyone like to pay 11 life?
You can have it.
Can I have this?
Calvin decides he does not want me to have a temporal trespass, so he takes 11 life to the Sin Prodder, then I'll draw my card for turn. I'll play a basic mountain as my land for turn, and I'll head into combat, and I'm going to go ahead and attack Calvin for 3 with the Sin Prodder. Then I'm going to tap out for a grand total of 6 mana to cast Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, copying the Sin Prodder, and I'll pass the turn to Chris for the 7th cycle of turns. Chris loses 2 to the Mogus, then he's going to tap for 2 red mana and play Conspicuous Snoop. He'll reveal the top card of his library, which is a Krinko Mob Boss. Then he's going to tap for 3 mana and try to cast Goblin Chieftain. Guy has a response. He's going to go ahead and tap for 3 mana and cast Beast Within, targeting the Conspicuous Snoop. That way Chris can immediately get a Krinko activation. Then Chris is going to head into combat and he's going to turn all of his goblins sideways at Calvin. Calvin has no blockers, so he has to take 6 damage, and then we're going to pass the turn over to Guy, where we'll untap, we'll trigger Mogus, and Guy will take 2 damage, then he'll draw for turn. Now that he has a Teferi up, he feels safe just passing the turn right back over to Calvin, where he'll untap, and then he's going to play a basic mountain as his land for turn. Then he's going to lose 2 life to Ancient Tomb in order to cast Swiftfoot Boots. Then he wants to tap for 1 mana and equip Zurgo with the Swiftfoot Boots. Everyone's okay with this, so he goes into combat and attacks Guy for 7 commander damage. Guy has a response. He's going to tap for 5 mana and cast Ixodron, which triggers upon entering the battlefield and turns all non-token creatures face down. This makes Calvin's commander a 2/2, so Guy can safely block it with his 7/7 Ixodron, which drops to being a 6/6 when Calvin's commander dies. Then we're going to move over to Calvin's second main phase, where he's going to tap out for 4 mana, including Mardu colors.
Mythos of Snap Decks, and because I spent Mardu mana, I choose.
Okay.
I want you to keep the one that is actually Sin Prodder, and I want you to keep your token,
Yeah, okay.
and I want you to keep your Ixodron.
After deciding to clear most of the board, no one has any responses, so that's all going to happen, and this will drop Ixodron to being a 1/1, so when I untap and Mogus triggers, instead of taking 2 damage, I'll sacrifice my face down token, causing Ixodron to die. I'll draw my card for turn, and then I'm going to play a Bloodstained Mire as my land for turn. I will then tap out for 5 to play Vial Smasher for the 2nd time, and with nothing else, I'm going to pass the turn to Chris. Chris will untap, sacrifice the Beast token to the Mogus trigger, and draw his card for turn. Then he'll tap 4 mana to cast Krinko Mob Boss, and with nothing else, he passes the turn to Guy, who takes 2 off Mogus and draws his card for turn. Then Guy will tap for 6 to recast his Kadena Slinking Sorcerer, and then he'll morph a card face down for free, triggering Kadena and allowing him to draw a card. With nothing else, we move the turn over to Calvin, where he's going to draw, play Exotic Orchard as his land for turn, then he's going to lose 2 to the Ancient Tomb, and tap for 5 mana in order to cast Elspeth Tyrell. He'll use Elspeth's -2 ability to make 3 1/1 tokens, and then he's going to tap for 3 more mana in order to cast Painful Truths. Painful Truths saw 2 colors of mana being tapped, so he'll lose 2 life and draw 2 cards. With nothing else, he'll try to pass the turn to me. Before he can, I want to fetch for a Watery Grave, dropping down to 30, and then we'll go to my turn, where I'll take 2 damage off of Mogus. Then I'm going to shock in Blood Crypt, dropping down to 26, and I'll tap for 8 mana to cast Sakashima, and this is going to trigger my Vial Smasher. So we'll set up some dice, and I'm going to roll, and it turns out that it's Chris that has to take 4 damage off of Vial Smasher. Then Sakashima enters, copying Vial Smasher, and we'll pass to Chris's turn, where he'll take 2 to Mogus and draw a card. He'll then play a Skirk Prospector for 1 red, which is going to allow him to tap his Krinko Mob Boss and create 2 Goblin tokens off of its ability. Then he's going to tap for 5 mana and sacrifice one of those goblins to Skirk Prospector to play a Demolition Stomper. He tries to pass the turn, but before he can, I'm going to float 1 black mana.
1, 2.
First cut, don't you dare leave my goblins alone.
I'm not gonna touch you. I'm gonna hit your commander.
Oh,
But first.
but wait, there's more.
But first,
Oh, wait.
we're taking it for a spin. Someone's taking 5 here.
Fuck.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Calvin, it could happen again.
You're
Oh
right.
my god.
You're dead. No.
After I'm finished making questionable decisions and Calvin loses the game to RNG, we'll move to Guy's turn. He is going to tap for 1 mana and drop a Soul Ring. After that, he's going to tap for some more mana and he's going to cast Lifecrafter's Bestiary. After that, he's going to pass the turn to me, where I'll untap and draw my card for turn, play a Marsh Flats, and I'll pass the turn to Chris, where I'll untap, draw, and tap for 5 mana.
Jiki, I choose you.
Oh, no. We're in so much danger.
It can't copy legendaries, so it cannot copy Krinko.
But when you screw that stomper up, you can copy that.
Chris is then going to activate Krinko to make a grand total of 4 more goblins, bringing his token count up to 5. He'll use all of them to crew the Demolition Stomper. After it's crewed, he'll tap Kiki-Jiki and try to copy the Stomper.
Does that need to be crewed as well?
No, because it's already a creature.
God.
Oh shit.
God.
Yeah, because it puts a copy of target creature.
Jesus fucking Christ. Hold on. Hold on. That's on the stack. Respond. I'm gonna cast Deflecting Swat.
I'll use Deflecting Swat to change Kiki-Jiki's target to Kirk Prospector, and then we're going to trigger both Vial Smashers.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Heads is you take damage. 3 to you.
That is the saddest Deflecting Swat I've ever seen.
I just don't want to die.
One Vial Smasher trigger's going to go at Guy, one's going to go at Chris, then he's going to get his copy of Kirk Prospector. After that, he'll turn the Demolition Stomper sideways at me. I cannot block it, so I'm going to take 10 damage. In his second main phase, Chris will sacrifice the Kirk Prospector token and 5 Goblin tokens in order to cast Daretti Scrap Savant. He'll +2 the Daretti, and he will try to pass the turn to Guy. Before he can, Guy will flip up Chrome Shell Crab. This is going to have him swapping control of my Vial Smasher and his Chrome Shell Crab. Then we're going to move over to Guy's turn, where he'll untap, and he will trigger Lifecrafter's Bestiary. He'll scry that card to the bottom and draw his card for turn. Then he's going to tap for 8 mana, 7 of it to cast Weaver of Lies, and the other one to draw a card off of the Bestiary. This will trigger Vial Smasher. He's going to go ahead and draw his card off the Bestiary, and then actually use the Vial Smasher trigger. He's going to flip a coin, and I won the roll, so Chris has to take 7. After that, he'll attack Chris for 2 damage with Vial Smasher. Chris takes it, and it is technically commander damage. Then he'll pass to me where I'll fetch, and realize I don't have a legal target, so I just went down a mana because I have an Urborg, which is awful. Then I'll draw my card for turn, play a Sulphur Falls, and pass the turn to Chris, potentially punting the game. Chris will untap, then he's going to tap some mana.
No, I didn't see
Siege
anything.
Gang Commander.
Ah! No! Make it go away!
Hey.
Siege Gang Commander is going to trigger and net him 3 Goblin tokens. Then he will tap Krinko to make a grand total of 7 more Goblin 1/1 tokens.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, right? I am going to tap 5 of these goblins. I will
So this goes up to
crew the Demolition Stomper.
Cool. Demo Stomper's been crewed.
I will
Clone
Kiki
Demolition Stomper.
to copy Demolition Stomper. I do have an actual copy token.
Nice.
So this is now a copy. I will move to combat.
Cool.
I don't want to die. I was good. I'm handless. I don't even have my other Vial Smasher.
That was good.
I have a Chrome Shell Crab. Leave me alone.
Guy,
Yes up. Both of them?
10. I mean 20 of them, sorry.
I'll block one of them.
Okay, so you take 10.
10.
You go to 14. Main phase 2. I will minus the ready, sacrificing the
God.
copy artifact.
Yeah, you do.
Um,
Oh, that's spicy.
get back the Sky Sovereign.
Yeah, you do.
Sky Sovereign trigger. I'm gonna shoot your Vial Smasher.
No.
Yes.
No.
I'm gonna be safe. I'm gonna sack 4 goblins.
Sack 4 goblins for 4 red mana.
Yeah, I'm gonna sack 2 more goblins to Siege Gang to shoot the Sakashima.
This is dead.
And then I will pass her.
After pulling way ahead, he's going to pass the turn to Guy, where Guy's going to scry to the bottom off of the Lifecrafter's Bestiary and play a Woodland Cemetery as his land for turn. Then he's going to tap out and cast his Kadena, realize he didn't need to tap out, so I'll tap 2 of his lands, and then using the Kadena, he'll morph a card face down and draw a card per Kadena's ability. With nothing else, Guy's going to pass the turn to me, and I'll draw my card for turn, and then I'm going to tap for 7 mana and cast my Vial Smasher for the 3rd time this game. With nothing else, I'll pass the turn to Chris, but before I can, Guy's going to flip up Nantuko Vigilante, and that's going to destroy the Demolition Stomper. This all resolves, so we'll move to Chris for the 12th cycle of turns. Chris is now going to tap for 2 mana, and he's going to drop a Mogg War Marshal. When this enters the battlefield, he'll make another 1/1 Goblin token. Then he's going to use Kiki-Jiki to clone Siege Gang Commander. When the copy enters, he makes 3 more Goblin tokens, so now when he activates Krinko, he's going to make an insane amount of Goblin tokens. Then Chris is going to use 3 of his 22 available Goblin tokens to crew the Skyship and head into combat. He'll turn the Skyship sideways at Guy, and then he'll use the trigger for the Skyship to shoot my Vial Smasher. I'll rezone it to the command zone.
I think I have just enough goblins now to shoot everybody with Siege Gang. So I will tap this and make 4 mana. I will sack 2 goblins. So go down to 1.
Bring you down to 4?
Yeah, I will shoot you for 4. I will sack
Need
4 more goblins to make 4 mana, and then sack 2 goblins to do 4 damage to you, Guy.
After killing Guy, he realizes he doesn't have enough to kill me, so he's going to pass the turn to me, where I'll untap and draw my card for turn, then I'll tap for 7 mana, and I'll cast Nexus of Fate, taking an extra turn. With no other actions, I'll move to my extra turn, untap, and draw. I'm going to tap for 4 and play Twilight Prophet, then I'll tap for 3 mana, and I'm going to cast Quasi-Duplicate, cloning my Twilight Prophet, so now I have 2 of them. With nothing else, I'll move to pass the turn to Chris for the 13th cycle of turns. Chris will untap and draw his card for turn, and tap 3 mana for a Goblin Chain Whirler, hitting each of my creatures for 1 and me for 1. Then he's going to crew up that skyship and head into combat, swinging everything sideways at me, and that's easily lethal. Chris wins the game. Mad Max Fury Road. I absolutely love that name for a deck, and that's what Chris sat down and he's like, I'm playing my Daretti deck, and he explained what the deck did, and we were all pretty pumped to see it, and we were even more pumped when he won the game at the end. Let's just really quickly go over how the game kind of went. I'll try to keep these a little bit shorter, as I know maybe after the game you don't want to stick around for like 5 minutes, and these wrap-ups have been quick. In the comments below, maybe let me know if you guys like a longer wrap-up or a shorter one. We're trying to cut out some of the fluff from these videos as we move forward. Planning different types of content. We really want to streamline the content that everyone's watching right now, which does happen to be these gameplay videos. That said, let's go ahead and talk about how the game went, and we'll start with Calvin, because his game plan is probably the most linear. He wants to play Zurgo, he wants to wipe the board on his turn, because on Calvin's turn, his commander has Indestructible, and then as a one-sided board wipe, so he's able to deal 7 damage. Little trivia piece, back when Elder Dragon Highlander, or EDH, first started, the reason commander damage existed is because all the dragons you could play, your Nicobolus, Chromium, all those little dragons had 7 power. And 21 commander damage comes from, oh, well, if you get hit by one of these commanders 3 times, it should be good enough to kill you. Zurgo has 7 power, so it's actually a really cool little callback in this particular deck. Calvin's game plan was executed fairly well. He was interacted with a lot. The deck's quite loud, and it can deal a lot of damage really quickly, killing someone in just 3 hits, and the deck has tricks to make it 2 hits, sometimes 1. So he was taken out pretty early. He was taken out by RNG, which will bring me to the next deck, mine. I was playing Sakashima and Vial Smasher, and I want to talk about my deck really quick because it did the thing. I played Sakashima, I played Vial Smasher. I, cast spells when they were in play, and I dealt damage to everybody. There was a point in the game, later in the game, where I think it was like turn 10 or 11, where I could have attacked Chris. This is the turn after Guy stole my Vial Smasher. We'll talk about Guy in just a second. He attacked Chris, bringing him to 5, and if I had attacked Chris with my copy of Vial Smasher and the Chrome Shell Crab, he would have had to block with Skirt Prospector, and he could have potentially not been able to win the game the way he did if I had done that. However, if Chris wanted to do like a vengeance petty play, he could have killed me on the swing back. That's why I didn't do that, but upon editing the game and looking at, in retrospection, maybe I was supposed to attack Chris. Just wanted to point that out. Other than that, nothing crazy happened. I was interacted with, plenty of my deck did cool stuff, but nothing insane. There was Guy's deck. His deck did cool stuff. For some reason, he always seems to find Teferi Time Raveler, so he's working at instant speed. Calvin was the board wipe deck. He was able to deal with Guy very well in the early game, and by the time Guy started to get his wheel spinning a little bit, it was too late because there was a Krinko Maw Boss on Chris's side of the battlefield, and just really quickly, Chris's deck was super cool. He started off with Goblin Engineer, which allowed him to go get a vehicle, which is like the whole Mad Max Fury Road, Angry Goblins and Sweet Vehicles theme, all wrapped up in one little combination. And he sacrificed the Tormod's Crypt to get it back into play. Between the Daretti and the Smuggler's Copter, aka Looter Scooter, he was able to loot through a lot of his deck, so he cast a Goblin Matron, stacked the top of his deck with goblins, and won the game. Little quick caveat, he could have actually won the game a little easier. I'm not sure what the exact order is, but if he had stacked the top of his library in a different way, he could have gotten a Skirt Prospector earlier and started to just kind of cascade through his deck, casting goblins off the top. He mentioned this in game. There was no really good way to leave that audio in for you guys, but Chris's deck was just phenomenal. I really liked it. It was sweet. That's all I needed to know. That's how the game ended. For anyone who made it to this part of the video, look forward to the end of the week. We have a game coming out with the new commanders. And for anyone, we've talked about this at the end of videos before, but we do use proxies on this channel, usually to substitute cards we already have, but don't want to buy like 50 copies of in order to play in decks. And we will be using some proxies in a video coming up because we're playing with all new cards from new decks. We've got a little video coming out with the uncommon commanders. We each pick one, and we have a budget of $100. So I know most of you won't see this, but for anyone who stays late, now you know that I think it's going to be Friday or Saturday. I'm not exactly sure which date. We're going to have a video up with new uncommon commanders at a budget of $100. We recorded a few different takes of the video. The one that we're uploading I'm really happy with for reasons that will become obvious when we get to that video. But I'm excited about it, and then we have some other content coming up the weekend after that for the Kaldheim commanders, for both some budget stuff and some not budget stuff. I won't go into too much detail, but if you liked the Commander Legends game where we did all the confessionals and interview style thing, and with the, you know, the over-the-top editing, if you like that, look forward to a video in like 2 weeks. That's all I have for you guys for right now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.